Okay, so Jonathan, you are an attorney. Of course, we had booked you to talk about something else, but then the news just broke. Nikki Haley is going to drop out today at 10 o'clock this morning. You'll see it live here on Fox. She's not going to endorse immediately Donald Trump, if at all. What are your observations, given what you know about how things work?
You know, I've had the pleasure of covering, as many of you have, presidential elections going back, I guess, now 6 presidents. And Trump is always that unknown card. You know, in 2016, I think he took the establishment from the blind side. They just did not see him coming because they didn't really understand what was happening in the country. But there's that old expression, right, that generals too often prepare to fight the last war instead of the next war. So I think that one of the questions is he going to pivot now? The Democrats have given him, in some ways, a political favor with all of these charges, right? They have bulldozed any moral high ground they had after January 6th with the ballot cleansing and all of the lawsuits and the astronomical damages. I think the public gets it. I mean, there is a certain victimology that is brought into this campaign that is real, right, is legitimate. The question is whether he can sort of stand tall in front of that storm. You know, I think that he has to be able to offer something other than, you know, this is a way to throw a grenade into the establishment. He has that. I mean, I think, and we saw that in 2016. But I think that what we're really going to see with Haley's departure is this vacuum. That is, now that he's standing alone, now that he will most certainly be the nominee, will he offer something beyond the fact that we have to fight what they're doing or what they have done? And I think we started to see that, but we're waiting for some details. You know, he's going to have a new administration. He'll have a new attorney general, a new secretary of state. What is the mandate he's going to give them? I think that's what a lot of people want to hear.
So, Jonathan, I'm just curious. So now that we know it's pretty much going to be wrapped up, Donald Trump will soon be the presumptive nominee. Do you feel this alters the way the court handles with this? I mean, don't they have a duty to let the candidate run his race and not be in court? Do you see a change in some of these judges?
Well, I think that is really the difficult question here. The Supreme Court handed down what I consider to be one of the most important decisions of the history of that institution. It told American citizens, and they took that to heart yesterday, that they will choose their next leader, that states are not going to be able to unilaterally cleanse their ballots, not just of Trump. Many Democrats have called for the removal of up to 200 Republicans from ballots. So that's not going to happen. But the real question is what these trial judges are going to do. Judge Chutkan in D.C. said, I'm not going to consider at all that you're running for president. And that surprised a lot of us because if the Supreme Court rules against Trump on immunity and sends that mandate back to the district court, and she decides to put the pedal to the metal and actually hold a trial before the election, that trial could conceivably go through the election.
Sure. And when would it start, though? The thing is, would they start a trial in September? Remember that unsaid rule you talk about?
Right.
We don't want to affect an election. What is considered not affect an election? Because they're now asking for one case in July, and the Trump team said, give me August. And the question is, would they take September? Do you think September would be acceptable to the American people?
Well, I think that that's a very good question, Brian. I think that the really shocking aspect is that Smith filed with the court and said, I don't consider myself bound by that longstanding policy. And I am not going to be restricted by that. The question is whether the trial judge in D.C. is going to say, look, okay, enough. I mean, I gave you one of the fastest tracks I've seen. Look, I practice in D.C. I've never seen a case like this get scheduled for trial in this speed. As a criminal defense attorney, my hair would catch on fire if a judge said, you know what, I'm going to give you a couple of months on pre-trial and we're going to rush this thing through.
Sure. Jonathan, real quick exit question, and that is this. You know, a year ago, you get in the Wayback Machine, a year ago, Donald Trump was trailing Ron DeSantis in the popularity polls, and then Alvin Bragg indicted him here in New York, and suddenly he made hay of it, and, you know, I know he complains about the legal cases, but ultimately, in a weird way, they actually helped him.
Well, that's the funny aspect of this. You know, there's all this talk about how much money the Trump campaign has. Every time he shows up in a courtroom, he's on all the networks.
Right.
And the optics are good for him because every time he's on, it's a different city, it's a different case. And I don't think the American people like that. I think that they feel like the establishment, once again,
Republicans don't.
is
Right.
is putting a thumb on this scale. And I think that'll get worse as it goes forward.
Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on with us.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.